Hello and welcome to the KST Healing Hub. I'm so excited to introduce you to our first ever interview at the Hub, Dr. Annie Keating Weisman. She is the Director of Wellbeing and Integrative Medicine at UNLV's Kerkorian School of Medicine, as well as a faculty member with the International Center for Mind-Body Medicine. Her background in integrative medicine, hospice, bodywork, KST, palliative care, and public care has made her an expert in the field of healing. Prior to working at the medical school, she spent 13 years working with AIDS and hospice patients, created protocols that helped countless people. I'm also honored that Annie chose to be a teacher for KST because to me, she truly embodies the essence of a KST healer. Annie has lived through an extraordinary life and has transformed that life into one of giving, healing, teaching, and being a beacon for all healers and seekers, including me. It is one of my greatest honors to have Dr. Annie as my first guest at the KST Healing Hub, but it is an even greater honor to be able to call her my friend. And please stay tuned till the end, where Dr. Annie can share some tips for self-care. All right, let's get started. Start by reading a paragraph that you wrote for the KST book.
Of course. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so she wrote this amazing chapter for KST. She actually, because she created one of our favorite distance healing techniques. So this is how she did it. She said, I set my table as though he was coming in for a treatment, and we picked the time to begin. I went through the whole session just as if he was laying on my table and the pendulum was picking up his energy. It really does. I took notes and recorded each reading. When the session ended, I called him and told him what the readings were. He and I were astounded at the readings, that the readings were spot on. We found out later that this was exactly where his cancer was. I love using this technique. Can you tell me more about it, about your work with this amazing man?
Oh, yes. First of all, this work, when I was first learning it with you and with Joanne, I was blown away by the technique and how it felt receiving it and how it felt giving it. And it was like this missing tool, I think, in my tool belt. And so when my friend became ill, his wife, she's why I became a massage therapist. She's part of my journey too. And coincidentally, right, I was learning this with you. And I thought, hey, I know this thing, or I'm learning this thing. Can I practice on him? And of course, they both agreed, which was so kind. And so I would come over to their house as often as I could with my little bag of treats. I'd have my Hebrew flashcards that had the names of each sphero and their meanings. And then I'd have crystals, and I had this whole little bag of tricks, my pendulum. And they had their children were very young at this time too. So I involved them in the whole bit because I wanted them to be a part of their dad's life and care. And so I would just set up and I would do my reading with each sphero as I was learning the pronunciation and the meaning. And I'd go through his body and I'd place the flashcard down and then I'd place whatever crystals. And we just really it was like this learning lab, and it was so incredible. And when his care was transferred to California, it was that's when the idea came to me, and I thought, well, heck, like all my friends that do Reiki, they can do, many of them do distance Reiki, so could we do the same thing with this? And I just thought, well, what the heck, let's try it. And it was still over at Qua, which was really fun. And so I remember this setting. I didn't have a client, obviously, during that time. I had some free time, or it was my lunch hour, I forget which. But like as you were reading that story, I was remembering like setting my room just so like he was there. And at the appointed time, going through just like we had so many times in his room at home. And it was astonishing to see the pendulum pick up so accurately his energy field. So I recorded everything that I could, and when we had our call, it was phenomenal. And we went through years of this. My dear friend had a long journey, and vowed to stay on this earth until their child got to high school, and I'll be darned if he did. And we did this throughout the rest of his life and at his death. And he had a really beautiful, beautiful life and death. So thank you for giving me this tool to share.
It was such a it's such a pleasure and an honor to do this work and to hear these stories. I think when he was first diagnosed, he was given 6 months to live,
Mhm.
and he ended up
Mhm.
living for years until,
Yeah.
and so that it gave his family time and
Hmm.
him time. Uh,
I was thinking about this just now. As you and I work together, I worked my few days a week in the beautiful spa land, and then I had my few days a week in hospice,
right.
and where I did massage in a local hospice. And I remember as we got to know each other and I realized all of these things that you know, I used to love coming to your room and asking you questions, because there were times I was taking care of someone and I didn't quite have, or I didn't feel like I had what I needed to help them. And so often you would give me a little nugget or a gem of something to take back into the patient that I got to see when I was in my other job. And you helped me so much during those years.
Those are some of my favorite times in my life with working at the spa. Because not only did we get to do massage, we got to experiment with all this healing work. It was incredible. We got to sit in our rooms when we didn't have clients, and I got to know you, one of the most extraordinary humans I've ever met in my life. We had so much fun and got to do this healing work. And then that gave you the base for, I mean, my gosh, my dear, you you are spearheading holistic care in this world when it's needed. And you've been through so much to do this, which okay, so may I ask, what was your entry into holistic care? You were already doing all these things when I met you. And
Yeah.
had you met Dr. Atkinson by then, or was that a little after?
I'm trying to think. So I met Barbara, Dr. Atkinson, this goddess, first of all. She's the only woman to have been the dean of three medical colleges. And in our state of Nevada, so I'm native. I was born and raised here, went to college, had a brief stint up north because I loved to snowboard and wanted to be at Lake Tahoe. And when I came back here, gosh, Barbara came to Las Vegas in 2014, and she is the only person that could start this medical school, I swear. The point of that long journey through my life in Nevada was all the talk had always been that we'd have a medical school down here. And at the time, there were only two universities in the whole state. Our sister school up at UNR, which I loved and got to play at for a couple of fun years, and then UNLV, which started as, I think it was like the college, something like College of Southern Nevada. It was something like an offshoot of UNR.
Mm.
And so, and because UNR had the med school, we didn't. And so as the city grew and life grew, it's always been spoken about that we'd have one. And enter stage left, Barbara came in, and gosh, I learned so much and still learn so much from her. I met her. I was working on a grant for through the Office of Adolescent Health in my role. I was a doctoral student at UNLV in public health, and we were funded to do comprehensive sex ed in African American churches, which was amazing. And we were hosting a community luncheon. And lo and behold, this vibrant woman with bright red hair shows up, and I'm working the check-in table because I like meeting people and it was fun. And
I don't think
I
anyone
saw
else
her.
wanted to do it, right?
That is true.
It, it was meant to be.
Yeah, no one else wanted to. And I was like, oh, I was a hostess in college. I don't mind this a bit. So I sat there and was checking her in, and we had the best conversation. This is funny. The actual anniversary of that interaction was just a few days ago, 10 years ago, when like we had met, and then well, that was a few months earlier, and then I sent her the email a few days ago, 10 years ago. She had given me her card because I told her all these things I thought we could do. I've been thinking about this for like 20 years. So I had this download with her because I worked in hospice, which to me was this beautiful model of care. And my patients used to always say to me, Annie, why is it that it's not until I'm dying that I'm getting this kind of care? And I was like, I know. I'm unclear why. I mean, here in the US, we've only got up to go here. And so my goal was like, what if we could bring this beautiful model of care from death all the way through the lifespan? We already have the model. It exists. It was funded. It is funded. What if we took this whole person model throughout the lifespan? So anyway, Barbara gave me her card and said, she wanted to talk more. And I finally emailed her in July 2015. And she emailed me right back. And the next day I came to the school and I told the founding people what I thought they should do. And they offered me a job. So I was just about finished with my dissertation that I was writing at the spa and anywhere else I could squeeze in some time. And I remember getting the job and going in to see our spa director at the time and giving my 2 weeks.
How did that feel? How did that feel when you did that?
Surreal and funny. Like I remember her face being so puzzled when you're leaving to go do what? And I was like, I know, it's pretty funny, right? I'm gonna go do this thing.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't really think anything of it. I thought, oh, what the heck? I'll give it a shot. Yeah.
And by the way, for people that haven't been massage therapists, yeah, we would be in our rooms, uh, and when we didn't have someone, would either be meditating or talking about this cool stuff. And in Annie's case, working on her dissertation, I'd come into her room, there's a little light on the massage bed, and then we clear it off and reset the sheets for you. So, yeah. So,
Yeah. Yeah, we were just talking this morning, my husband and I, about those. I felt so much more connected to my body when I was a massage therapist and we worked in
yeah,
those rooms
yes.
because he was like, remember how you would change how you were doing a massage based on how your body felt? And here in medical school land, I have lost that. It was a good reminder of like, I really try to recreate that space. Like my
Yeah.
office is way in the back and it's dark and it has my pretty pink lights. But I've been so cerebral again and disconnected from my body. So I'm like, oh, sorry, lady. Welcome back.
Because you do a lot of things to reground yourself back into your body, right?
I have
Um,
to.
Yes, yes, you do,
I'll
because
float
you
away.
are doing this work. And it's not easy. The day to day is not easy. From my perspective, I'm like, wow, look at all this cool shit she's doing. But when you're in it day in and day out, really doing the work, woo. So respect.
I use the tools that you have taught me there I envision like that I have a tool belt around my waist and I take out different things when I need different help. And so many of them, I feel like have your energy and essence just wrapped in them. And you're part of my, okay, I need this.
Thank you. Thank
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 you.
you for doing this work.
You help keep me on this planet doing this work and inspired to like play with it when things get really tough.
Yeah, because speaking of keeping you on this planet, you have an extraordinary backstory.
I
Um,
d-
that even before you started concretely doing this work, you were being led to this work, and in a sense, you were given a choice whether you wanted to stay or go in order to do this work.
Mhm.
Thankfully for all of us, you chose to stay. Can you tell us a little bit about your your origin story?
Sure. This is so funny, Jordania. This last weekend was the 26th anniversary of me almost exiting this plane.
Wow.
Yeah. So I laugh that I'm 26 now because I was 20 when it happened. But thank God I'm really 46 or goddess. But this movie Steel Magnolias was on this past weekend, and I just happened to sit down and turn on the television, and I just fell right back into that movie. And I remembered it was one of my favorite movies when I was young, which is not, you know me, like that movie is so beautiful and so sad.
Yes.
And it's all of these women that are coming together in this beauty parlor. And it's so magical the way that community is and the relationships and the way that they rally around each other. And then I was chuckling because my other favorite movie as a child was Beaches. So like my death theme just has been there since I was young. And my sweet grandmother, who knew she was dying when I was really young, I was in like first and second grade. She was my first death teacher.
Mm.
And she was so unafraid. And I was the most inquisitive little child and probably annoying, but I asked her like all the questions I could about her cancer and her death and she had planned her whole funeral. And so I think having the experience as such a young person
Mhm.
to be so present with death, and I had an uncle that also passed away young of colon cancer. And I remember being in his house and it was so quiet and nobody was really talking about the fact that this man is dying upstairs. And I was so aware of it. And so it's interesting just reflecting on those early imprints that I think had left their mark on me that helped me when I was 20, kind of,
Well,
and from
what kind of
20.
feedback what kind of feedback did she give you? Your grandmother.
Yeah, so she had cared for a lot of her relatives. Our family's Irish, and her relatives, I think her side was more Dutch, but she had cared for a lot of the relatives as they died. And she was a religious woman, so it was interesting. She didn't have a fear. She felt very certain of what happened after. And because she had tended to so many people as they transitioned, she was very matter of fact about it. And I loved her. She was so glamorous too. She
Oh,
would sit there and just talk me through how she wanted it to be. And, there was just no bones about it. And I thought, well, that's cool. And I remember asking her if she was afraid, and she wasn't. And, she sent us to Disneyland on the day of her wake, or her rosary. And then we had her funeral, and they brought her casket in to when the saints go marching in, because that's just the kind of
love it.
personality she had. Um, but it was funny so fast forward, sorry, the story's kind of out of order, but I almost died when I was 20. I was in a near fatal accident up at Lake Tahoe, and I was in a coma and on life support for 6 days. And there's a woman, her name's Carol, and she's my earthbound angel. She saved my life, she and many others. But she was in a car, a couple cars behind me, and she had just completed her paramedic certification. And she pulled over and assessed me and knew that I was dying. And so she called in northern Nevada. They have something called Care Flight, and they were helicoptering me from here or from Reno to Las Vegas or northern Nevada, but I died en route. So they brought me into the hospital as they were trying to resuscitate me into Reno, and where they placed me on life support. And I am the luckiest human being.
We are the luckiest human beings
Yeah.
that she was there and that you
Yeah.
chose to stay.
Yeah. And I even got to meet the person who helped with my airway, like who placed
Wow.
yeah. And in the ICU, when you finally get out, they take a Polaroid picture.
Hmm.
And I got to go back about a year later and thank the team that saved my life, which was incredible. But it's Yeah, it's been a long road back, as you know. I incurred a traumatic brain injury, and my brain was not working very well for some time, and I had paralysis on the right side of my face, and yeah, my pretty much messy road back.
Right? Just because we choose to stay doesn't mean staying is going to be easy. You chose the hard path and you've come out of it this strong, incredible angel on this earth.
Oh,
So great.
thanks.
So when you woke up, what remember your first thought, your first impression?
I don't. My memory didn't really come back online until like a month later. I have a vague memory of coming out of the airport here in Las Vegas. We
Mhm.
had a family friend picking me up. And I remember coming out of the airport and it was hotter than hell because I live in Nevada. And I remember taking off, like vaguely taking off my sweatshirt, and I had a lot of hair in my underarms, which is not my natural, that's not how I roll normally. And
Mhm.
I remember being like, what? Which is funny. I remember that. I don't remember. I was brought right back to the hospital down here, but I don't really remember that. I remember I have memories of being out of body, like when I was in my coma, I was with my papa, and I remember like how it felt, which was just like bliss and interconnection and like just love. It was the best feeling. It's like the best I've ever felt on this planet times a gazillion. And so coming back here, once my brain started to come more online, I remember being so in awe of just how beautiful and like all of the things like in a normal day,
Yeah.
just the awe of it. And also like kind of disappointed in some senses. Like it's so hard and it feels so different there.
Hmm.
So it was like just, I struggled a lot in the first like 5 or 6 years, 5 years of being back and getting to be here. There was this joy of being alive, like, and this miracle of holy moly, I'm the luckiest person. And it was like, now what? It was like waking up to a whole other life.
A whole other life, and where's that unconditional love? And it feels a little more constricting. So
Yeah. And oh, and I woke up in my parents' house, which was like my childhood home, which I mean, back in the day, I was like, wait a minute, what am I doing here? My first memory was waking up. And I used to drink a lot. I mean, that's what caused my accident. So I remember it wasn't the first time I had woken up in a strange place. And so I was like, how'd I end up here? And I remember thinking, like, what did I do last night? And then I looking around, like just being in my childhood room, it was so odd. And my sweet mom and dad, I went to ask them
Mhm.
what I was doing there. I couldn't open my jaw, my mouth, because it was wired shut. And I just started to cry. I was really scared. And they shared with me that I lived with them again. And I was like, what? Something must be terribly wrong.
Right, right. This was
And they told
not the
me,
plan.
yeah. Then they told me I had been in an accident and I was enraged. I was like, who hit me? And they were like, oh no, this was you. And you had been drinking and driving. And then I just sobbed. I was like, oh my God, was anyone else hurt? Thank goodness, no.
Thank
I
God.
was the drunk driver that took the brunt of it. Thank goddess, goodness, God, all of it. Like, but yeah, it was, and so that was August 4th, 1999. And I was like, well, now what? And there was a lot of shame. And I felt really, really, it was so embarrassing and it was so terrible. And it was so public because of my community, that my friends, my family, and I had had something earlier in my life that was less public. So it was just interesting to get to know the things that my body was holding and to try to figure out a way through it.
Oh my gosh. It was a way to that less than public thing that you were holding that was being held in your body. That accident help release that.
Hmm.
And it helps you hit a bottom and make a
Hmm.
choice.
Hmm. Yeah. I remember. So after those years, and once I kind of started to get my feet back under me and my face started to work again, I had had some Bell's palsy and my brain was working a bit. I got to start UNLV as a non-admitted student, which was amazing because up until that point, I love reading the paper. So I was reading the paper one morning and there had been an article in it about this program called Child Life,
Mhm.
and it's play therapy. And our local hospital, the hospital I was born at, Sunrise Hospital, they have a pediatric oncology floor and a child life specialist there that needed volunteers. So I thought, oh, what the heck? I can't work or go to school right now, so I'll go do that. And my head was shaved over here, and this part of my face didn't move. But I thought, well, the kids won't care. So I
I love it. I love
I
it.
started going to the hospital and volunteering for that whole semester, and it was the best thing ever because it was the kids were funny. They're like, "What happened to your head? What happened to your face? What happened to your hair?" And some of them were missing their hair from their treatments, and we just fell in love with each other and played. And it was so cool. It was such a, left also such an imprint because they had like, I remember race cars that the kids could drive down to their surgeries or their treatments, and like just the meeting these children where they are, 'cause they're still children
Yeah, right.
and they have these illnesses, these things happening in their bodies. But it was such a beautiful time because it reminded, like, no matter what's happening with us, we're humans. We want love, we want play, we want affection, we want touch, we want connection.
Mm.
And so I got to do that for a while and then go to UNLV down the street as a non-admitted student to see if this old nugget would work. And
It
I
worked.
ran, yeah, and I met really great people that just helped me a lot.
They helped you a lot, and you were able to start going back to school
Mhm.
and working. I mean, you were doing pretty much 10, 15 things at one time.
Yeah, and though during my undergrad, I fell back kind of into like I wanted to be how I used to be so badly.
Yeah,
That
right?
I fell back into that a lot. Like once I felt okay, then I
Mhm.
was like, can my body handle this? Can I do this? And so I kind of started to go back to my old ways a bit, which was interesting. And I worked and I went to school, but I also fell back into partying a bit. So it wasn't until I was like 25 that I remember laying in bed and thinking, I had a nephew that was born who was on life support at that same hospital. He had a heart condition and he had to go up to Stanford to have open heart surgery.
Mhm.
And I remember standing at his little bassinet and looking at this little body hooked up to all these machines, and something clicked. And I
Yeah,
just thought, what are you doing? You almost died because of this. And this little guy has had no choice. And that I quit that night. Had my last glass of wine and I was like, I'm done. This is not for me. I have this beautiful life. I've been given another chance. I'm going to use it.
I forgot that it wasn't the accident, that it was that precious little baby.
No. Well, and it's so funny, Georgina, just this week. So I had this realization that Steel Magnolias really opened a door for me this
Yeah,
week. But,
I've got to watch that again now.
so I think of my life in these periods, these chunks, like from 0 to 20, and then my accident. And then from 20 to 25, I kind of went through it trying to figure out like who am I? What do I do? Like, and then from like 26 on, I was like, okay, that's when I started going to grad school and just really changing. Or no, I think I was still, anyway, yeah, I started grad school around that time. It was 2007. But in the 2020s, it's the same thing. I turned 40 in 2020. We had the pandemic. We were all sent to our rooms if we were lucky enough to have jobs where we could do
Yeah.
that remotely. And in those years, I also was really struggling again with like, what do I do? How do I do this? And now at 46, again, like at 26, I'm like, oh, this is who I am. This is how I do it. But it's been so interesting that symmetry.
Hmm.
And yeah, like just,
I'm sorry, in astrology, I can see your chart, right? you're dealing with these oppositions and trines, these Saturn oppositions and trines right
Mhm.
during those times. And so, which is another indicator to me that you are on your path, you are on your schedule, and you've had tremendous choices. A lot of people don't have choice. They're here. You literally have made conscious choices about how you want to do this. And I'm
Mm.
so grateful you've chosen as you have. Yeah, yeah,
Thank you.
powerful.
It's funny, I think about just knowing myself as well as I also, it's funny, like, it's so easy for me to just, whoo, so to choose to stay
Oh,
here.
it's so much more fun in the woo.
I know, I know. This like, I remember when I was learning chakras, I had forgotten that Joanne took the chakra class with us.
Oh,
Um,
yes, yes.
she reminded me when I was working on her this last week, but it was so funny because I always struggled with those lower chakras. Like the upper ones were like, we, and the lower, and it's funny because life imitates all of it. Like in this part of my life, I've really learned that like grounding, rooted, connected. I mean, shoot, I'm in my hometown trying to do this thing, but there's no place I'd rather be. The relationships that I have and the wonderful people that loved me back to life is why I'm still here.
Nice. Yeah, that first chakra is just as important as the seventh. And I know so many paths think otherwise, but it's been our path to learn
Mhm.
that, no, they're just as important. They're just as spiritual. They're just
It-
as transcendent.
It's
And we can,
taken me 46 years. Here we
well, and it's ongoing. It's an ongoing
go.
journey,
Yeah.
infinite layers.
Hmm.
And so, with all of this knowledge, with all of this experience, what is your position for the future of holistic care as you see it?
I see such possibility. So my vision is what I think I described in the beginning. We have this beautiful model of care that exists at the end of life in hospice. And I was lucky enough to work at it and volunteer in it and be a person in that world for so long, where my patients used to say, Annie, why is it that it's not until I'm dying that I'm getting this level of care? And I was a public health graduate student during those years, and public health is all prevention. So I used to think, I've been thinking about this for like 25 years now, 30 years. Like,
Mhm.
if we have this beautiful model, what would happen if we took it from birth through death and throughout the lifespan? Like, what if, because we already have the model that exists and it is funded. What if we built a connected system of care
Yes.
where it's the physical, it's the mental, it's the spiritual, it's connection, it's community, it's movement, it's nourishment, it's purpose. These things are so fundamentally human, and I believe they will change our health outcomes in less than a generation. And to me, it's a real grassroots effort.
Mhm.
Most of the stuff I'm talking about, a lot of it is free. Being in relationship with another, it it demands a choice,
Mhm.
and I think the more that we reconnect with ourselves and with each other, the better we're going to get out of this time of life that we're in this situation on our planet. Bombs have never solved the problems long term.
They haven't.
No, no. And I think love really, I mean, it might sound whatever. I think love really is the answer. Like the Beatles were right all along. It's we have these choices of fear or of love. How do I show up? What leads me?
Yeah.
And man, it's easy to go to fear. I've been living in it for a while because I was just laughing this morning. You turn on the news and I mean, yes, all of these things are true.
Mm.
And how do I choose to respond to this?
Yes.
Do I help my neighbor?
When you've actually had to implement that, for example, after what was it, the October shooting, the students were really in fear. You had to deal with that. So
Yeah.
that's what you're talking about now, it sounds like.
Yeah. I mean, we had only been open as a school, a medical school, a few months. We welcomed our first class July of 2017.
Such a wonderful class. Oh, I love
Oh,
that.
yeah, you got to teach them. I was thinking
Yeah.
when we were talking, I have pictures of some of the classes that I've taught KST in at the medical school. I have a picture of me in this like holding the pendulum and the beds all set up in the classroom. But yeah, our students had just finished. We do this immersion class in the beginning of medical school where the students, I love it so much because it's very public health, population health. They
Mhm.
go into 6 or 7 different zip codes in our community and they learn about the health of the community. They walk through the neighborhoods and they look at what is there, what exists, what's missing. They get to know the community. They work in the community centers, they work in the clinics. And then at the end of their immersion block, and they work with police and fire and first responders so that they really get a sense for what's happening in these neighborhoods and what are the barriers to healthcare.
Yeah.
Because if you look in our country in particular, our health is really dictated in a lot of ways by the zip codes we live in, which is horrifying, right? In a country as wealthy as ours and as we we are literally choosing to not fund and support our neighbors and each other. And in the poorer neighborhoods, the life expectancy is dramatically different than it is in our wealthier neighborhoods. And that tracks in, I believe, almost every state.
Mhm.
I haven't looked at those in a little bit, but when I last looked across the country, our zip code data was astonishing and not in a good way.
Wow.
And so thinking about that, we have these opportunities. We can try these like mind body type of connections, teaching
Yes.
breath, teaching drawing, teaching journaling. Like there's such simple human things that we can do, movement, shaking, dancing, cooking together. Like there's so much we can do to come forward and reconnect. So to me,
And
that's the model.
it that is a profound model. Um, and the combination, the integration of that into current medicine or what students are being taught as medicine
Yeah.
would be extraordinary. And like you said, in those areas where they need it more, it's cost effective. It's you can do it for free a lot
Yeah.
of times.
Yeah.
Some of those
Yeah.
hospitals can get, but do you
Yeah.
have any particular exercises that come to mind that you might want to share with people
Oh
today?
yeah. Oh, for sure, for sure. So, gosh, I after the shooting we had here in 2017, I had reached out to one of my colleagues back east. He was a wonderful physician in New York City, and he connected me with the Center for Mind Body Medicine because I was like, Ray, what do I do?
Yeah.
My whole community has been shattered. My students, like our colleagues that were working, and like what, how do you even begin to repair or help? I don't know what to do. I felt so inadequate and such it's such a loss and in such grief. And he connected me to the Center for Mind Body Medicine. And I remember I got to go so quickly after. I remember flying to Chicago and I was in this beautiful community center that I think Barack Obama got married at or his reception was at, was the folklore around it when I went. But
Mhm.
I remember that my teacher, Sabrina, standing up and teaching us shaking and dancing. And I have to confess, I was sitting very smugly in the back thinking, I'm a massage therapist and an energy worker. I know all this stuff. Like, I had no humility and did not think that they were going to be able to teach me anything or much. I wasn't very open-minded. And so my sister Sabrina shared with the whole group, and mind you, there's like a couple hundred people in this ballroom with me who have all been impacted by gun violence in South Chicago. And
Oh,
I had just been impacted by gun violence for the first time in my life. And Sabrina instructed us all to stand. So we did. And we close our eyes and then breathe together. And so we do a breath, like a soft belly breath is what we call it, where we breathe in through our nose and we think of the word soft. And we exhale through our mouth and we think of the word belly. And when we breathe in through our nose and out through our mouth, and we focus on two words, it's a form of concentrative meditation because you're focusing, your brain is going to something. And if those words don't call to you, you can use any words you want, but just have one as you breathe in and another as you breathe out. And breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth also naturally calms your nervous system. So as we breathe in this way, your sympathetic and your parasympathetic nervous system are balancing. And then once we've all breathed together, something really beautiful happens because we co-regulate. As my nervous system starts to become more calm, it's also contagious. Yours will also become calmer. If I start to be dysregulated, same. So, like we know as massage therapists and body workers, like we share energy. So, after we all finished breathing together, my friend presses play and tells us that when the music starts, we're going to shake our little bodies the whole time. And to keep our eyes closed. So, I'm going to invite you to pick whatever jams you like. We used like I think it was an Osho Kundalini kind of beat. It's really fast.
Mhm.
And you close your eyes and you just shake. I had such a powerful experience while I was doing that. It like dislodged or like all of the grief and the fear and the angst that I had been holding while trying to hold space for my community those last few weeks. And even predating that, all of these, I could see faces of people that I loved, that I cared for, that had died, that I never took the time to grieve.
Mhm.
Because at that moment of my life, I didn't know how to stop and acknowledge what I had felt,
Yeah.
was feeling. It was just easier to be like, I'm a death person. I work at hospice. Everybody dies. This is what I do. And while I was shaking, I could see the faces of people I loved so much that I got to care for. And all of this emotion came out of my body, and I started to cry, which was surprising because I'm not like a public crier. And it was like a good snot cry. Like I was like, "Whoa."
Your energy was just, yeah, just moving. Just,
Yeah. And this, I did not know that was possible. And there was a gentleman in front of me who heard, I think, my snuffles. And when it was over, he asked if he could give me a hug. And I was like, thank you. And we hugged. And later that day, we sat outside and had lunch together. And he told me about his life and all the gun violence that he had been
ooh, wow.
witness to in his neighborhood, and then hugged me. And as he knew where I had just flown in from and what we had experienced. And he said, we're all praying for you. And I said, thank you. And that experience was so profound. And after we finished shaking, we took a minute, which was good because I needed to like clear my sinuses and
Absolutely.
eyeballs, but it was also so powerful. And then they turned on another piece of music, and it was Bob Marley, which was rad. And I think it was like Three Little Birds. And then they tell you to just dance.
Yeah.
And that was that reconnection with joy and movement. And there's really no instruction. So that to me, those three techniques, soft belly breathing, shaking, and dancing, those are my jam. And it helps me move all the stuff that I carry. It helps me if I'm feeling anxious, just to get out the extra juju and kind of feel what I'm feeling.
Right. And mention juju and say woo woo.
Yeah.
But it's becoming measurable, right? I mean, when I was a kid, Valerie Hunt was starting this work. And she was ostracized for it. She was a
Mhm.
doctor at UCLA. And then since then, you've come across a number of people that are starting to measure because what happens is the traumas get stuck
Yes.
in KST, it's the body of the Tzira. So it's the emotional
Yes.
body. Yeah. Or in the chakra system,
Yes.
it's the astral body.
Do you remember when we worked at Caesars? I was reading Besser van der Kolk's book, The Body Keeps the Score, had just come out. And I read it. And
Great.
like I swear every chapter I would like run back to the break room and be like, "Do you see this?" Because we we would talk about it in the break room,
Yeah.
right? Like when we'd have a client on our table who would have an emotional response or
Right.
something would happen. And I am so passionate about figuring out how to measure this. I
Yes.
asked a very smart friend, Ruth, who's the physicist in Seattle. Haven't quite broken through yet, but like I know that there's got to be a way to measure this because what gets stuck in our bodies, I think, is also so much a part of the cause of our dis-ease. Like,
Absolutely.
like it's
Yes.
yes,
Thank
and
you.
like and all of the years of all of the times doing this work with people at the end of their lives, with those of us at the beginning, it's so interesting where disease shows up in the body, where things happen. Often,
Hmm.
a lot of the times, we can go back to something that has happened.
Yes.
And I really, really, really think energy medicine and learning these types of skills to integrate what has happened to us
Hmm.
more fully will clear so much of that in us.
Yeah.
Yes, we are going to decline. Yes, we are going to die.
Yeah.
We are human. This is part of the deal.
Hmm.
And I think how we get to live and how what happens to us, maybe there's a little bit more we can do with it. Maybe these other things can help us. Just yesterday, I had one of my medical students reach out and they were working with a patient who was experiencing something that they didn't have the tools from their allopathic training to help that person.
Hmm.
And I thought about it and asked her a couple more questions. And then it was like, you know what? Are you comfortable sitting? Just sit with her.
Nice. Create the space where healing
Sit.
come in.
Yes, yes, yes. Just sit and be present. And are they up to writing with a pen and paper?
Perfect.
Yes. Cool. That's no cost. So this student, there's this really cool thing we do, like dialogue with a symptom, an issue, or a problem.
Hmm.
And because of what had just transpired with this patient, I thought that might be a great exercise. So that she could do that with the patient. And the patient could get some insight from her own body, her own wisdom about what was happening at that time. And I think that is so important for us. I mean, I know for myself, agency has been huge.
Yeah.
And in my own healing journey, in my dissertation, I looked at self-efficacy for people living with HIV and AIDS who were receiving massage therapy. And that piece of being able to choose what's happening to me, to have that agency, to have that self-efficacy, I think is so important all the way through.
It really is. And I hope this isn't a tangent, but your
I love
dissertation
tangents.
seems to loop, to loop back to one of the origin stories that I haven't heard from you in a while. So not only did you work in hospice and with AIDS patients, you did that in Africa, didn't you?
Oh yeah, it
Yeah,
did. Yeah.
that was one of your original. Nope.
I am again the luckiest woman. When I was young, again, I was young and I knew
Hmm.
when the HIV and AIDS virus was first starting. I was so young. In 1981, I would have been two, three.
Yeah.
And my dad was a dentist. And I remember I'm a family of 10, and we would sit at this long table. There's a bench on each side. The
Wow.
parents were like the referees at the end. But I remember so many nights having dinner and my mom talking to my dad or my dad talking to my mom and the news, like there was a lot of fear around this new unknown pathogen. And my dad being a dentist, obviously he's working with bodily fluids. So
Right.
and then a few years later, Ryan White's story really touched my heart. And I just had a deep knowing of like, this is part of my work. And I was so pissed or frustrated, even as a little kid, the injustice of how people were being treated. I was so mad, like watching this on TV or seeing or hearing different things. And it was so interesting. Fast forward to 2020, as COVID was breaking out, I was like, oh my God, we're doing it again. We are doing this again.
Right.
humans, when are we gonna learn? And Ted had just given me a book about all the great epidemics and plagues of world history, and I had read that like it was one of my Christmas presents. I finished it that January, and sure enough, humans, we just kind of went full human again. And it's like, we all need each other. Stop it.
Right.
Stop
Right.
it.
Wait, you read that before the shutdown?
Right before I got it, Christmas of 2019.
Whoa.
I know, I know, because I'm a nerd. I love epidemiology.
Yes.
I was really interested. So anyway, as a young person, I knew that HIV and AIDS was going to be part of my life.
Mhm.
And then in college at UNR, one of my buddies from down here, we went to school together up there, and he and I both experienced trauma on the same night and ended up leaving the university later. He left quicker than I, and
Mhm.
we reconnected down here. And he ended up working at Aid for AIDS of Nevada. And at that time, when I was in undergrad, I was a communications major, and that public relations was my major. And I needed to work with somebody to do their PR. So I was like, "Hey, Earl, can I do the public relations for AFAN?" He's like, "Of course." So I went over to AFAN and fell in love.
Mhm.
And Earl and I used to, oh God, these were the other years. We'd go to the macaroni grill and we'd sit and we'd drink and smoke and then go back to our
Oh
meetings
my
for
God.
PR. And it was, and so we do all the public relations stuff for like they do this great black and white party and this AIDS walk. And I loved what they were doing. It was such a beautiful organization. And they had this group called, they still probably still have it called Project Upfront.
Mhm.
And they would tell their stories about what their life was like and how what their experience was. And it was so powerful. And Earl and I used to be outside, doing our thing. And I could hear them singing Seasons of Love. And I didn't know what the song was. All I knew it was like a gazillion minutes and all these seconds. And when I finally had the pleasure of sitting and listening to this group sing the song, that play, Rent, is about the beginnings of the HIV and AIDS virus in New York. And the man who wrote it, we share a birthday. He passed away unexpectedly as the show was premiering in New York. And but he never knew like the what the show would become. But it changed my whole life. Like listening to these men and women share their stories and sing this song about life and the seasons of it. I was like that. And then one of the first people I ever worked on over there started to cry and told me that no one had touched him since they were diagnosed.
Oh my God.
So I skipped a bunch of chapters because after I did PR for them, I
Mhm.
quit PR a couple of years later,
Yeah.
went to massage school, and of course Earl and AFAN let me come right back in and do massage. So it's been a ride.
It has sounds like quite the ride. Sounds like you lived a dozen lifetimes in this lifetime. Yeah. Old soul. Well,
Too, thank goodness. What's that?
old soul, welcome back.
Oh, thanks. Hopefully this is the last ride.
I think we joke about wanting to maintain our human consciousness after we die just long enough to kick our higher selves ass for
Yes.
helping us go through so many lessons. Having said that, listening to you, I'm like, it is important. It creates this depth that
Yeah.
you only get through those experiences. And then
Yeah.
comes the choice. What are you going to do with it?
Well, and that's the right now, I feel like this just came in, but like and I get it. We're so wanting to stay in that, like, oh, I'm happy all the time, like
Yeah.
in that bliss. I get it. It's
Yeah.
not a natural state. So also coming back into the lower sphere, the lower chakra, that
Yeah.
we need that root just as much as we need that connection and all in between. And we have to work through each of the layers in order to. There's no shortcuts. Trust me, I've tried.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. You have, I have. There's no shortcut. Will we try again? Maybe.
I don't know. Right now, I'd say no, but
Right. No,
situation could.
it's too late. You've done it. You've done the journey. You've done the journey. You built that base. You've built this incredible life on top of that base. And now you're putting on the touches. I mean, you've accomplished what you came here to do. It's not complete, but
Mm-mm.
you did it. There's no turning back and there's no shortcut forward.
No, but also like, thank you. When I was learning KST, there was a quote on like one of the first pages about it. Shoot, now I'm ding, squirrel. But like it was essentially like this work can heal the world, and it can. I believe if we can teach, and many people know this, but like just that blueprint for what's already in our beautiful bodies and our souls, the more we teach these fundamental basics,
Yeah.
and we have them in Ayurveda, we have them in Kabbalah, we have, look at all, many of the world traditions have blueprints like this. Get back to the sacredness of being a human and go from there.
Mhm. Exactly. KST is one of many, many filters for the same healing energy. So
Mhm,
whichever one calls to you, to
mhm,
anyone,
mhm.
it's the right one. We're all working with the same energy.
Yes,
Exactly.
yes,
Yes.
yes. I don't care what you call it. Learn it, play with it.
Balance your stuff. Let's go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Oh,
good to be with you.
this has been amazing. Thank you so much. What a
Thank you.
blessing.
Me too.
Perfect first interview.
Woo
Thank
woo.
you for doing this work. Thank you for being you.
I
Um,
love you.
I
Thank
love
you.
you. As some people I know say, I love you to life.
That's funny instead of I love you to death. That's funny. Well, love me either way. I'm good. I love you.
I love you too. So I'm going to stop the recording
Cool.
and
I've
you,
got a research meeting to go to.
woo!
Jeez, I
Research.
love you.
I love you too. Bye bye. More details about our sessions and seminars can be found on our website, kstechnique.com. That's KSTECHNIQUE.com. And if you've enjoyed your time with us as much as we've enjoyed our time with you, please consider hitting that subscribe and like button. It helps more than you know. I look forward to seeing you in our next video.